This channel is for educational purposes only. Please do your own due diligence before making any investment decisions. Hi, this is Joe. Welcome back. So, in a lot of cases on this channel, I'm showing you income producing strategies, trading strategies, intraday trading, swing trading strategies, and even the weekly, daily strategies. These I consider to be more like income producing, meaning you could use these to produce an income for yourself because they can generate trades a lot more quickly. However, today I wanted to spend a little bit of time on wealth building strategies, and we want to go up a time frame. The beautiful thing about my approach is that you don't have to change the approach or the strategy or the methodology. You just have to up a time frame. But you do have to have a slightly different mentality if you want to capitalize on big trends. And you have to treat it like you almost want to think a little bit more like Warren Buffett. As long as I've got a piece of a good business, I want to let it play out, let it continue to move. Now, if you want to gauge the momentum, I would use the ADX. I'm going to go into that in the first example, but I've got two examples of something we want to look for. All right, and I'm leaning on ADX. I got a comment about ADX as to whether it's really necessary. I'm going to show you why in some of the biggest trades I've ever done. And these are two real trades that I did, historically speaking, and they were based on ADX. And I just think it adds a tremendous amount of value. So let's go ahead and get into that now. These strategies are discussed in my book. If you want to learn more about these strategies, I think you should go to rabilstockresearch.com/book to get more information. Okay, so I've got a monthly chart of IDXX on the left and a weekly chart on the right. All right, now I have scrolled back on the weekly. In fact, I've scrolled back on both because the trade that I took dates back to early 2016. And I did think this is valuable because for two reasons. Number one, I don't want anyone new to the channel, I don't want them thinking, this is a strategy that I just developed or something like that. This has been used, time tested for a very, very long time. And we can go back and look at this specific period dating back here through the 2015 level where we consolidated on the monthly. And while that was taking place, we formed a higher low. So let me just set this up so you can see it. We make a higher low in price. All right, so that's doing that while the MACD is actually making a lower low. All right, so that's dropping while this is making a higher bottom. Also, one thing I would suggest that you notice is the fact that we're looking at a really strong ADX pattern. See how the ADX made this monster move, reached almost 50, and then during that consolidation was well above the 25 level. Now, I just did a video not that long ago on this specific setup where we have strong ADX on the higher time frame, and then we have the low ADX on the lower time frame. Okay. Now, the other thing that I would tell you that is pretty intriguing about this is the fact that the 18 and the 40 were rising throughout this whole pattern. You see how this went through this long consolidation, but it stayed rising throughout. So it really was a strong setup on the monthly chart, had a big move to the upside and then consolidated in an extremely healthy manner. Now, if we go to the lower time frame, we had this a little bit more noisy type of correction pattern. And because of that, we had a situation where we had a decent amount of overrun take place here. Okay. And because there's so much overrun in this situation, and we had a low ADX condition, we really wanted to see green DI start to get going again. Now, it was a low ADX pattern. And what I tell my subscribers is if it's low ADX and green is above red and holding, then we can buy the breakout. We don't have to wait for any kind of a breakout and then buy a pullback. But in this case, it actually, before it broke out, it formed a higher low and we got a pinch to develop during that period. So we saw this developing, and then it made a move to the upside, and we could see what was developing on the monthly, and things were starting to turn up again. But we waited for the confirmation, and we ended up getting this big green bar developing right at the end of March, early April. And that was essentially the trigger for this move. All right. So we broke the downtrend line. We had been going sideways for a while. We had MACD kind of make a big double bottom and then another double bottom here. And we had a low ADX condition with a breakout. So when you look at that and then you look at what happened after, we had this extended run to the upside. All right. And one thing we realize is, yeah, we can take our partial profits along the way, but we're not eliminating this trade, meaning we're not going to get out of the stock until the trend itself tells us to. Okay, and usually I'm really gauging the ADX if I'm doing it in a way that where I'm monitoring the strength of the trend. I'm not really getting fooled out of taking out, like if we don't show, this went to a new high here, but MACD did not. But notice how strong the ADX period is. And what I'm trying to tell you here is that as long as the ADX remains strong, now I'm talking about as it goes to a new high, not here. See how we had really good strength to the upside? That was confirmed by ADX, and then we went through a correction and there was no seller. So I want to ride through this. Now I'm going to have a trailing stop in place, but I'm not getting stopped out of this position. And in fact, it went from 75 up to about 250 before ending up really turning to the downside. So depending on the strategy you use, I like to use ATRs as a way of kind of giving it enough room. And if you use that strategy, it would have kept you in all the way up until this final peak, and then you would have been stopped out as it started to drop off the high. So it was a great trade. You can see the move on the monthly made the big move, and then you had to live through a consolidation period, but that was well worth it in my view because it went from 150 to 250 over the course of the next 6 months. So anyway, I think this is a really good approach. So you can look for the ones that have the low ADX condition on both time frames, but also be on the lookout for ones that have already shown the strength on the monthly and then have gone through an extended corrective period and a low ADX condition forms on the weekly chart. It's a great combination. I wanted to make sure you know that the strategies that I'm using have been through tested long term. If you're enjoying the content, hit that like button and also subscribe. Okay, so the other strategy is the low ADX pattern, which I just alluded to. Low ADX on the higher time frame and low ADX on the lower time frame. All right, now there's other things developing here. I got a comment that you could do some of these strategies without even the ADX, and I just I just think there's so much power behind the ADX. I wanted to make sure I kind of clarified, yeah, this was a zero line reversal, but I wouldn't know that something incredibly meaningful is developing if I didn't see this long low ADX strategy, long low ADX condition in place on the monthly chart for several years. Now we did when we put this trade on, it was around the low to mid 70s, and again, notice how it started with a nice big green bar after a higher pivot low. See that? And it essentially, while it didn't meet the criteria of a pinch play, it did show the green DI starting to move and break out again. All right. And so we have this condition in place where we're watching this go sideways. Now, what I typically do when I see this developing is put an alarm in, and I like to put the alarms in below the trigger. All right, so like let's say the trigger is 75 on a breakout or something like that. I'll normally put it in at 74 just to make sure I have plenty of time. Um, I know what's taking place. I know I have plenty of time to put the trade on. I want to be able to know how many shares I'm going to do. I don't want to be taken by surprise. So I like to do all that in advance. But this is the other strategy. Again, this is another one. Look at how long this went up. And it's just, you get into a situation like these are wealth building strategies because you're in these and you're not doing a whole lot of work, right? You have the income generating side where there's a lot of work being done on a daily basis, weekly basis. But on these, once you put them on, it's a wealth building strategy. It's not buy and hold where you just forget about it, but the amount of work you do, maybe it's once a week or something like that, is very, very limited. Let me know if you have any questions. We'll see you next time.